Hi, in this lesson we'll talk about the Hive Metastore. So what is Hive Metastore? So every Databricks workspace, when you create a Databricks workspace, by default, Databricks will create something called Hive Metastore, which is the place where Databricks will keep track of all the metadata about your data. What does this mean exactly? So let's assume you have a database, right? This database have some tables, maybe table 1, and this table have some columns, so C1, C2, C3. There's another table, T2, that also have C1, C2, C3, and this is DB1. So the data of these tables are stored somewhere on your cloud storage. So in your cloud storage, you have the actual files of this table, T1 and T2, files, actual files. And maybe they are in a folder called DB1. So there is a folder DB1, and DB1 has two files, T1 and T2, that corresponds exactly to this, to database and table 1, table 2. But Databricks keep tracks. So this is called the data. If you want to put labels here, this is called data. And this is called metadata. So database name, column names, column types, this is called metadata. While actual files and folders, this is called data. You need to make this distinction clear in your mind. So, because throughout Databricks, there is always this distinction between what is a data, what is a metadata. So if the data is stored on the storage, where is the metadata stored? That is where the Metastore comes into the picture, because Databricks stores the metadata in something called Hive Metastore. So Hive Metastore, what is it exactly? It's a database. It's a database at Databricks backend that keeps track of the databases, DB1, table 1, column 1, and so on. It's like a database that lists or maintains awareness of all the metadata about your data. And every Databricks workspace, you will see Databricks have something called Hive _ Metastore in there. Hive Metastore. Now let's also talk about how accessing the data works in Databricks. So Databricks adopts something called 3-level of access. 3-level. What does this mean? Databricks have something called catalog. What is a catalog? A catalog is a group of databases. So we've got DB1, DB2, and until DBN, for example. Database 1, database 2, database N. Every database have a set of tables. So table 1, table 2, until table N. And every table has a set of columns, C1, C2, until Cn, and so on. Now, to access table 1 in Databricks, you have to take the path or the 3 levels. Let's say you have, by default, Databricks have one catalog called Hive _ Metastore by default. So Hive _ Metastore. If you wanted to access database 1, so you say Hive _ Metastore dot DB1. If you wanted to access table 1, so Hive _ Metastore dot DB1 dot T1. Do you really have to do that every single time? Like, if you wanted to write a select statement, should I always write select the asterisk from Hive _ Metastore dot DB1 to T1? No, you can write for short something called use statement. So use Hive use catalog Hive underscore Metastore. You can do that. And actually, by default, when you create a Databricks workspace, Databricks automatically assumes that everything will run against the Hive Metastore. So you can actually use Databricks DB1 to T1 directly because it assumes that you're going to use Hive Metastore. But Databricks allows you to create another metastores than Hive Metastore. And this will be something called Unity Catalog, for example. Then in that case, if you have more than one, you need to decide which one you should use, right? So let's take a look at the Hive Metastore that comes already with Databricks and how we can work with it. So if you go to your Databricks environment here, so to click on data, this will show you the Hive underscore Metastore. If it didn't show up with you, you need to start a cluster first, because showing databases in here, you have to have a cluster running, and Databricks will use the cluster to list all the databases inside the Hive Metastore. So here you go. So Hive Metastore by default, and like I said, this is a catalog. A catalog is a group of databases. So you have Hive underscore Metastore. There is some databases. They have the default databases, which also become preloaded inside Databricks. And I created the Titanic database. And my database has these tables. 3 levels, right? So if we created a new, let's create a new notebook here. Create notebook. Let's use test Hive underscore meta store. I'm going to use SQL because I'm going to use a lot of SQL in this one. So I'm going to create. So now, by default, I am connected to my cluster. Let's show databases. This is one command you can run against the Hive Metastore. Tell me what is the database you have. So it tells you, yeah, you've got 2 databases here, default and Titanic, which is exactly true. See, there is 2 databases. And let's describe database Titanic. You can see that the Titanic database is described here. There is a namespace, command, location, owner. We can describe details. Describe detail. So I think describe database. Let's try this one. I think we can get describe details Databricks. You can see if you're stuck with any commands, you can actually look it up. So you can actually describe details a table. So we can try actually one of the tables. So we can do that. So describe detail Titanic dot. Let's pick one of the tables inside Titanic. So Titanic underscore train test underscore server. Let's describe this one. Titanic dot test underscore server. This shows you a lot of details about this table. So what is the format of the table? What is the ID, the name, description, location, created at, lots of details about your table in here. Again, this is also some of the information that is stored inside the Hive Metastore. So the Hive Metastore is basically contains all the metadata about your tables. How many files, how many folders, where it is stored. So this is information comes straight out of the Hive Metastore. So show databases, show describe database, describe tables, describe details. All these commands are, we call it a metadata commands that you can execute against the Hive Metastore. So Databricks by default gives you one metastore, Hive Metastore. If you are using Databricks Unity catalog, you can see other metastores, other catalogs listed in here, which is again, a catalog is a group of databases. You can work directly with the Hive Metastore, but if you have Unity catalog, you can have the leverage to create more and more catalogs. If you are in the database like Classic, this is going to be the one that you have. And Databricks Hive Metastore is stored at the Databricks backend. You don't even need to maintain a database or anything for that. It's all in the backend. But think of the Hive Metastore as a place that tracks all the data, all the metadata about your tables. So this is pretty much it about the Hive Metastore. So thanks for listening and see you in the next lesson.